Welcome to josephsmithspolygamy.org, the audio version.
Ever since Joseph Smith introduced the practice of plural marriage in the 1840s, various reasons, both theological and practical, have been promoted to support it. Joseph Smith identified 4 possible reasons for a divinely sanctioned restoration. After his death, other leaders postulated other justifications. An overview. Doctrine and Covenants, section 132, and Reminiscence of Associates record the prophet's justifications for the practice of plural marriage. The first reason offered was that plural marriage could be restored as a part of the restitution of all things prophesied in Acts 3, verses 19 through 21. This power to restore is mentioned in section 132. I am the Lord thy God. I have conferred upon you the keys and powers of the priesthood, wherein I restore all things. Verse 40, see also verse 45. Early in his ministry, Joseph hinted at a future restoration of polygamy. Benjamin F. Johnson recalled in 1903, in 1835 at Kirtland, I learned from my sister's husband, Lyman R. Sherman, who was close to the prophet, and received it from him, that the ancient order of plural marriage was again to be practiced by the church. Another reason sometimes promoted is that it provided a special trial for the saints at that time and place. It tested their faith and brought them valuable experiences. In the past, God has mandated obedience to specific commandments that were not required for other peoples at other times. For example, the children of Israel were given the law of Moses, which was fulfilled at the time of Christ. Going back even further, Abraham received the law of the gospel, which included the practice of circumcision, but such is no longer required. One of Joseph Smith's plural wives, Helen Mar Kimball, remembered, the prophet said that the practice of this principle would be the hardest trial the saints would ever have to test their faith. Brigham Young reminisced in 1855, I foresaw when Joseph first made known this doctrine that it would be a trial and a source of great care and anxiety to the brethren. But what of that? We are to gird up our loins and fulfill this, just as we would any other duty. This particular trial was withdrawn through the 1890 Manifesto. At that time, President Woodruff, the man holding the sealing keys to validate eternal marriages, declared that the commandment to practice plural marriage was no longer binding upon the saints. They were to thereafter live monogamy, which is the marital standard unless otherwise commanded or permitted by the Lord. A third reason given by Joseph Smith for the establishment of plural marriage deals with the premortal existence. He taught that we all lived in that realm as spirits before coming to earth. Among those spirits were many who were noble and great, who desired to be born into devout families here on earth. Polygamy could increase that possibility. The revelation on celestial marriage affirms the plural wives are given unto him, the husband, to multiply and replenish the earth according to my commandment, that they may bear the souls of men. D&C 132, verse 63. Nauvooan Charles Lambert recalled the prophet teaching, there are thousands of spirits that have been waiting to come forth in this day and generation. Their proper channel is through the priesthood. A way has to be provided. But the time has come, and they have got to come away. Helen Mar Kimball recalled, it was revealed to Joseph Smith that there were thousands of spirits yet unborn who were anxiously waiting for the privilege of coming down to take tabernacles of flesh, that their glory might be complete. Unfortunately, some authors have portrayed sexual reproduction, to multiply and replenish the earth, as the primary reason for plural marriage. It was one of several reasons for the restoration of polygamy, but it is not the most important. The fourth reason Joseph Smith gave for the restoration of plural marriage dwarfs the other 3 explanations in significance because it deals with eternity. D&C 132 verses 16 and 17 state that men and women who are not sealed in eternal marriages during this life or vicariously later experience greater penalties than simply an eternal divorce from their legal spouses at death. These two verses explain that such individuals are appointed angels in heaven to be ministering servants to more worthy resurrected beings. They remain separately and singly without exaltation in their saved condition to all eternity. In other words, exaltation, the highest salvation, requires eternal marriage. No single person can be exalted according to Joseph Smith's teachings. Presumably, Doctrine and Covenants, section 132, anticipates more worthy women than men, as it approves a plurality of wives and disallows a plurality of husbands. Specifically, verse 63 states that a plurality of wives is for the wives' exaltation in the eternal worlds. Polygamy in the form of plurality of wives may be needed in eternity, and therefore its practice has been divinely sanctioned by some of God's followers on earth. While all men do not need to be sealed to additional wives, some may. Section 132 supports that eternity was the primary focus of the marriage theology taught by Joseph Smith, rather than plurality or sexuality. Indeed, eternal marriage, not plural marriage, was the zenith doctrine taught by the prophet. The crucial objective of polygamy was to allow all worthy women to be eternally sealed to a husband, making them worthy of exaltation. Other reasons promoted by later church leaders and members. Early church leaders recognized that their efforts to explain and defend the practice of plural marriage to both LDS and non-LDS observers would not be an easy task. They could not effectively utilize the explanations Joseph Smith included in section 132 because the non-LDS audience did not accept them, as they require an a priori belief in his new teachings regarding premortality and eternal marriage. Instead, church apologists advanced other more practical explanations that are not directly traceable to the prophet's teachings. Perhaps the most common of the additional explanations is the assumption that there were excess women in Nauvoo and Utah, so allowing them to marry polygamously was justified. Demographic studies suggest that this dynamic may have been accurate in a few isolated areas, but overall it is not supported. A novel notion was championed by B.H. Roberts, president of the 70. The negative publicity was beneficial to the church's mission. That hypothesis is not supported, for the practice seemed to welcome persecution and hamper missionary efforts, among other things. Other ideas that polygamy could solve the world's moral problems or produce healthier parents and children are not easily defended sociologically or physiologically. For early LDS polygamists, defending plural marriage successfully before the Christian world was an uphill battle that was never very effective. Those seeking understanding today may be best served by going back to Joseph's reasons for the establishment of the practice as they were voiced at the time plural marriage unfolded.